Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DJ, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to the first cartoon sitcom. This is by Sitcom guy. Shout out to Sitcom guy. Hey man, make sure y'all go subscribe to the homie channel. When them likes up, the views up, the comments up, subscribers up over there on his channel. And without further ado, we gonna get right into it, man. They show that love over here. We're gonna show that love right back, most definitely, man. I was gonna react to this when he first dropped this video, but the problem was around that time, a bunch of black YouTubers were getting their shit taken down because either they was doing cartoons or they was doing anime. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was about, but I didn't want anything to do with animation, cartoons, nothing. I was like, nah, let me sit back and wait for this shit to cool down, then maybe I'll react to it. But apparently, everybody got their shit back together. Everybody moving like they was moving before. Hey, let's just keep the ball rocking. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
When people talk about the most influential sitcoms of all time, you usually hear some of the same names like I Love Lucy or The Honeymooners, All in the Family, Seinfeld, Friends, even The Simpsons at times. And you know, obviously all of these shows deserve to be in that conversation, but how many times would you hear somebody say The Flintstones? Probably not a lot, and that's kind of why I'm making this video, because today it feels like everybody remembers The Flintstones for the cereal, the vitamins, the Saturday morning reruns, the merchandise, and just the nostalgia of it overall. But what a lot of people don't remember is that the Flintstones was actually one of the most important and influential sitcoms ever made. And somehow along the way, I think we've forgotten that.
I mean, a lot of us wasn't born when this came out, brother. A lot of it was born when this came out.
So today, The Flintstones is remembered more as a children's cartoon, but when it premiered in 1960, that was not the case at all. This was actually a prime-time sitcom, and it was more aimed at adults. And if you don't believe me, you know, some of the examples I can bring up here is how one of the show's earliest sponsors was Winston Cigarettes.
Yup, they had a cigarette sponsor and shit. Everybody was like, wait a minute, this is a cartoon that sponsors cigarettes? But children watch this show. They don't give a shit. Then again, this is like, what, the 60s, 70s?
Isn't that crazy? The same Fred Flintstone that most people associate with Fruity Pebbles now once appeared in cigarette commercials. This is probably the quickest example just so you can understand how different this show's original reputation was versus what it eventually became. Because Hanna-Barbera wasn't trying to create another kid's cartoon with this thing. They were trying to convince adults that a sitcom could be in the animated space. And that's what makes the Flintstones so interesting, because today animated sitcoms are everywhere. Some more modern examples are like The Simpsons or King of the Hill, Family Guy. Nobody thinks twice about this concept anymore, or if it can even be viable. But in 1960, an animated sitcom was a huge gamble. I mean, it had never been done before. Animation was increasingly being viewed as children's entertainment at the time, so Hanna-Barbera faced a pretty simple question. How do you convince adults to watch a cartoon? And the answer was, you turn it into a sitcom. And that's exactly what this show was and what it was intended to be. It's actually almost a direct carbon copy of The Honeymooners, just with a prehistoric mask over it. In fact, the similarities were so obvious that stories circulated for years about Jackie Gleason considering taking legal action against Hanna-Barbera. Now, whether that's true or not really isn't the point of bringing it up. The point is just that the inspiration is there. And honestly, that's not a criticism of this show in any way. It's kind of part of what made Flintstones such a clever idea in the first place. Because ultimately, you gotta understand that Hanna-Barbera was trying to reinvent what a cartoon could be, and so they started with a formula that audiences already trusted, and added on top of that by asking a much bigger question. If we're gonna animate this thing, then why stop there? Why not build an entire world around it? And this again is where the Flintstones is just brilliant, because if Hanna-Barbera had simply animated a normal family living in a normal normal neighborhood, I don't think anyone would have cared about this, and I think it would have bombed hard.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it's the question, if you're going to animate something, then add something crazy to it. And the Flintstones did that by giving you this prehistoric setting that you could never build in real life, with the mammoth vacuum cleaner and using birds as record players, dinosaur-powered construction equipment, all these prehistoric versions of modern technology. And this was just a genius way to show why animation had to be used for this concept. Because if you use a regular family in a regular situation, then what's the difference between that and a live action one? If you're going to do an animated one, then go big or go home with it, because that's really the only justification for doing it. And so, like I said, this demonstrated possibilities that live action television just could not pull off at the time. And underneath all this creativity sat, again, a very traditional sitcom. Work problems, money problems, marriage problems, friendships, neighbors, the same things sitcoms have kind of always been about. And the big joke is that they're this satirical version of us. It used a fantasy world to comment on reality, and honestly, that's an idea that future animated sitcoms have been borrowing ever since. The Jetsons took modern life and pushed it into the future. Shows like Rick and Morty stretched everyday human problems across an infinite universe. Just to name a couple examples there, obviously. But one thing I also find fascinating is the addition of the laugh track to this show, because today hearing a laugh track in animation feels really weird, and to me it still kind of is. But think about what Hanna-Barbera was trying to accomplish with this, because in a weird way the laugh track acted like kind of like a camouflage. It constantly gave this illusion and presented like shows that the audience was already watching. And even though I don't like fake laugh tracks, I honestly think that was a pretty clever decision, because audiences understood it immediately. So I just, I thought that was actually a clever way to kind of disguise this thing and dress it up like a traditional sitcom and make people into it. I think it's actually funny because this was so successful that Hanna-Barbera even inserted laugh tracks into other shows that they did in the future. Like, even probably one of the weirdest ones to me was adding a laugh track to the original Scooby-Doo series.
Scooby-Doo having a laugh track was kind of weird. I ain't gonna hold you. That shit. Hearing. Matter of fact, hold on. Hearing something like. Here's something like. Here's something like that. Scooby-Doo just kind of like hurt. It kind of hurt. I think they did it in Tom and Jerry too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they did it in Tom and Jerry too for a little bit, then they stopped.
I think it's one of the most out of place laugh tracks of all time, but I still love this show a lot, so I don't, I overlook it every time. Another interesting thing here was that this was a show that critics hated initially, and this show was seen as gimmicky or very, like a ripoff of The Honeymooners, so people kind of was salty about it, I think. But audiences absolutely loved it. They looked at the Flintstones and saw a sitcom that happened to be animated, and that's a huge difference in, critic and audience perception. Obviously history ended up siding with the audience on this one, because it's such a beloved IP, and with audiences embracing the concept, it just genuinely changed TV forever, because this opened the door for all future animated sitcoms. The Flintstones answered the question of, can this be done, and then opened up a new question of, okay, what else can we do with this? And the answer there is pretty much limitless. You can do anything. And the part that's so ironic is that the Flintstones may have become too successful for its own good, because over time something strange happened with it, and that was that kids fell in love with the show. Reruns exploded, merchandise exploded, the brand got massive, and eventually it feels like public memory started to shift with this show. The Flintstones stopped being remembered as a groundbreaking primetime sitcom and started being remembered as a children's cartoon. And in a
because we a lot of us didn't grow up with it, so you going over your grandparents' house and shit, They put this on for you, be like, yeah, watch some Flintstones. I remember them days. Watching Tom and Jerry and Popeye and Flintstones with my grandma and shit. Yeah, good times, good times, good times. Yeah, that's how I was introduced to this shit. Listen, man, I was growing up off them Saturday morning cartoons and goddamn Nickelodeon Cartoon Network, but but when it comes to these OG cartoons like Scooby Doo and Flintstones, Jetsons, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really like the Jetsons, but like the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, Popeye. Yeah, yeah, if it wasn't for my grandma and them, I wouldn't know shit about these shows. I wasn't trying to really watch these shows, but they would put them on. I was slightly entertained. Flintstones, Scooby Doo, and Tom and Jerry, and Looney Tunes. Well, mainly Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, but Scooby Doo and Flintstones was entertaining too. The only one that didn't hit with me was the Jetsons. I ain't gonna hold you. The Jetsons, not gonna lie, bro. If you a Jetsons fan, that's cool and all. But me personally,
hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
Boo this man!
that's just me though.
Weird way, the thing that preserved the Flintstones is also the thing that kind of buried part of its legacy, because most people know the brand, but far fewer actually know the show. And that's unfortunate, because the show is still genuinely phenomenal. Not just historically important, but it's actually really good and funny and creative and well written and surprisingly modern in a lot of the ways that people that haven't seen the show before, it might catch you off guard a little bit. All in all here, I think the Flintstones wasn't important because it was the first animated sitcom. You know, there's a lot of things that are the first to do something, but a lot of those things are kind of garbage and forgotten. But the Flintstones is so important because it actually worked, and it not only proved that animation could support the sitcom space, but it proved audiences would embrace it as well, and it helped create a blueprint that television is still using more than 60 years later. And that's a pretty incredible legacy for a show most people now remember as a cereal mascot. And honestly, if you've never sat down and watched it because you assumed it was a kid's cartoon, I think you might be surprised if you go back and check out some of the first few seasons. I mean, a lot of people don't know that Pebbles was added in late season 3, and then Bam Bam came in season 4, and there was only 6 seasons of the show, so there's a lot of this show that didn't even include them. But regardless, buried underneath all the vitamins and the merchandise is one of the most influential sitcoms television has ever produced, and I think it's about time it got remembered that way.
Alrighty, man, that's just gonna about do it for this one. Shout out to the Sitcom guy. As you already know, run the likes up, the views up, the comments up, subscribers up over there on his channel. You already know. Hell yeah, man. I gotta say, man, the Flintstones history, it is very murky for me because I wouldn't know none of this shit. All I knew was that they sold cigarettes before they sold cereal. That's all I know. They sold cigarettes before they sold cereal. They had them. Yeah. But as far as it like being a primetime show, I wouldn't knew. I never knew. I never knew. The more you know. But anyways, though, that just gonna about do it for this one. Shout out to the Sitcom guy. Most definitely, man. Flintstones is, for me, it's not goated, but it's definitely a good show. Other than that, though, I'll see you on the next video. Till then, business.